Hi everyone, it's Mrs. Bright. I hope you're all having a wonderful summer vacation, or if you are watching this during the school year, then I hope you're having a smooth school year. I wanted today to talk with you all about vision boards and goal setting. I like to do this toward the beginning of the school year, and I think that that is the best time to do this, but it is something you could do really at any point if the school year has already started. I do think that this is a really valuable week-long lesson to share with your students because these are skills that they can use for years and years and years as long as they remember it. And that's why it's so important to explicitly teach it and revisit it throughout the school year. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in the video and how to effectively revisit it as you teach throughout the school year. I also want to share too that when I think back to my first few years teaching, and if you're a newer teacher, it is easy to be overwhelmed by the amount of things that we need to teach, the amount of content. And even if you're not a newer teacher, you still get overwhelmed by this idea because there's so much that we need to teach, so many things that we need to go over with our students, and it can really feel overwhelming no matter how many years you've been teaching, really. But I know that my first couple years teaching, I was so concerned about this that I didn't realize how valuable those first few weeks of school were. So I know, like my first year, I think it was just the very first day of school that I went over getting to know you and expectations and the syllabus, and then the second day was right as if, we were in the middle school year, we were just running with the content. And I think it's really important looking back now. I'm like, oh, those first few weeks are very valuable to go over expectations, routines, practicing those routines, and also just getting to know your students getting to know each other, doing a social contract, goal setting and vision boards like we're going to go over today. So that is what we're going to talk about in this video. Let me know in the comments below if this was helpful for you or if you have any other strategies that work really well for you. I'd love to see what works well for you. I think we can always learn some great things from one another. So please feel free to share what works well for you in the comments. Without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump right in. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to take a look at how I use this with my students. Okay, so let's take a look at what I've got here on my screen. This is the first portion of the week-long lesson that I do on vision boards and smarter goals. So I'll go over vision boards first because I think it's important that they kind of are able to visualize what it is they even want and know what they want before diving into making a goal. Because how do you make a goal if you don't even know what you want? And so I like to start with vision boards and then go into smarter goals. So I have my essential question here, which is, what is a vision board? So that's something I go over with them. And the objective is students will be able to create a vision board and envision their aspirations. And I go over aspirations and envision with them as part of the vocabulary for this lesson. So that way they're getting a little bit of good vocabulary they can use. Here in this next slide, I tell them what a vision board is. So going over how it's a collage of things that you want to have, be, and or do in your life, and that it's basically a creative activity, and they get really excited about that. And so it is a really great way to see the creativity in your students as they create this and also get to know them. Why are we doing this? So I think it's always so important to include the why for every lesson with our students. So I make sure to include a whole slide on all the reasons why it is important. So a vision board helps us, and then I have all the reasons that I think it's important. And then I have a little video clip here about, it's like some sort of motivational video clip that I share. And you can find any motivational clip or visualizing clip that you find helpful and put that in your presentation. I think it's a really great way to make your presentation a little bit more fun is by switching up how we're presenting. I like to always embed a little bit of short video clips for my students, so that's what I'm doing here. And then step by step, I break it down and go over them exactly how we're doing this. So step one, take some time to think about what brings you joy and what you value. Step two, write down your thoughts from step one and brainstorm using the Google Doc. So I want to pause here and show you the brainstorming worksheet that they all have. And you can print this out if you prefer printed, or you can have this as a digital copy that you have up for them in Canvas or Google Classroom. So here is the brainstorming sheet that I use to go with this. So it says, please write down anything that brings you joy in this box. And you can format it any way you want, but this is how I have it. So they write down the things that bring them joy. And sometimes they think of it quickly, and sometimes it takes them a little bit of time, and that's okay because they have the whole day to really work through this as you work through the presentation. And then down here we have a values list. Now, I know I did get this from a website. I'm trying to remember which one. So if I remember where I got this from, I'll make sure I put the credit that is due in the description for the video below. So that way I am giving credit where it is due, but I have a values list here where they highlight the top 8 to 12 values describing how they find meaning and purpose. And then down here, we've got some brainstorming questions about their strengths, their goals, who matters most to them, what do they like to do for fun, just kind of getting to know themselves a little bit better and knowing what they value, what they're proud about, what they're passionate about, what makes them happy, things like that. You can really customize them as you want. And then, so they fill that out. That's part of step 2. And then step 3, they find and save images and graphics that they think relate to their brainstorming. So if they said that they really love their pet dog, then they might want to find a picture of their pet dog and upload that. And this is a good opportunity to work with them on those digital skills as well. So this is a fantastic lesson for also gauging your students' tech skills because you can see, oh, okay, they already know how to do this. They need help with this. So it's a really great way to just kind of see where your students are at as well. And then also where they're at with direction following. So I do really think that this at the beginning of the year is very valuable. Down here, we have steps 4, 5, and 6. So step 4, we see a creative way to fit their images. And then step 5, double check that they followed all the directions. And step 6 is adjusting as needed, submitting for grading and keeping their vision board so they can see it. Now, how are they going to keep it so they can see it in a place? Well, I like to, if we're working digitally, especially with this past year working from home, I told them to save it as their computer background so that they could always see it whenever they go on their computer. And it's always right there for them because it's important they see it frequently. And then also, if that's not an option, you can always print it out for them and they can put it up in their room, or maybe even talk about a place you could have that up in your classroom, or having them put it on their journal or in their binder, however works best for your classroom, but making sure that they have a place where they see it often, because that's the whole purpose of this, is to keep what they want and what they value at the forefront of their mind as a really helpful reminder of why they need to put in that hard work or what it is that they're working for and how to get there. So this is really an important part of step 6. I don't want this to be something that gets overlooked because having it in a place where they can frequently look at it is really important. So here I break down the steps a little bit more and I give them some time to work on that brainstorming Google Doc. And then the next part here, they continue working on the Google Doc. And so that's just basically built in there. So I remember, give them time. And then the next part here, I show them their rubric. So this is what I expect in order for them to get, that perfect score. And so that way they have a clear understanding of what it is they need to do in order to get full credit. I think that's also very important for all lessons. And then as we go down here, I've got my little quote that I launched them with, is that the only person you're destined to become is the person you decide to be. Let me read that one more time. The only person you are destined to become is the person you decide to be. I really like that one by Ralph Waldo Emerson. And then down here, there's just some extra ideas that they can use as they move on to the next part. This is usually the next lesson that I do with them that we'll pick up here. Depends on how quickly they're working and if anything else pops up during your lesson, and also how long of a block you have, because I know every school is different. So this might be the same day, it might be a different day, just depends on your schedule. But next, I have them do that search for visuals and they start adding to their vision board. I have mine there as an example. It's also a great way for my students to better get to know me. It's a chance for me to say, hey, these are the things I'm working toward. And that healthy one there, I like to usually ask them, hey, like I'm also working on drinking more water and staying hydrated. So this is a great time to ask for somebody to remind me to drink water. They love jobs. I know my students in middle school, they love, and I'm sure probably most grades love having jobs. And so I usually have a water reminder in class because we know as teachers it can be easy sometimes to forget about that. So here I've got just more reminders and tips for them, and then the final slide. Now, if you really liked this slide format, this was a template. I did not create this from scratch because one, I don't have time for that, and two, why create extra work if you don't have to? So I got this from Slides Go, and I'll put the website link below if you're interested in checking that out. Then this is usually a whole new lesson, a whole new day, is smarter goals. And I'll go into, taking what we did for our vision board and making our vision an actionable goal. Before we get into this lesson though, I wanted to pause real quick and show you how they can actually create their final project for the vision board. So if you are in person, then you can do an in-person physical copy where they do it as kind of like a one-pager just on a blank sheet of paper. Or if you really want to make it a big project, you could have them do it on a board or a bigger sheet of paper. But if you like digital, then this is a digital way to do it. You can just show them how to add images in Google Slides. Also a great way to see how are they with working on Google Slides. Do they know how to insert images? Do they know how to add text boxes? That kind of stuff. So here I just remind them of some of the things they need to make sure they have in their vision board, and then I give them a blank slide so they can just go ahead and start creating it and being creative. So that is how I like to see the final project. So going back here and talking about smarter goals, I like to talk about why we need to do this and for what kinds of things do we need goals. And this is where I have them brainstorm and they discuss these things. So I'm not giving them the answers because I don't need to. They often know these answers themselves. All right, so like I said, discussing these, this is where they know they need to do it. Next, we look at an example. So I love Tesla, and so I like to use this example of Tesla, but I do suggest using your own example. Please don't copy this. I want you to create your own presentation with your own examples, your own video clips, because that way the students get to know what you value and a little bit more about you. And so I like to tell them, oh yeah, I like Tesla. And they, get excited about that, pretty excited about that. And so we talk about how it started and then where they ended up and kind of how they continued to work towards their goal and not losing sight of that goal. And so we'll talk about how companies use goals as well. I think it's really helpful when they see that this is something that is used not only just in school, but it's also can be something that companies use, that this is a really big concept that we're working on. And then here I have another video clip. This one's from Oprah. You can find any video clip that works for you and your students on why it's important to have a goal and what you're working toward and whatever message it is that you want to embed here. This is a great spot to do it. And then I break down what SMARTER stands for. So specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, timely, evaluate, and reward. So I not only list what each letter stands for, but I also go over some questions to help them better understand what that means, because they don't always know what does specific mean. Well, what exactly do I want to do? And so that can kind of help them wrap their heads around it. While we do this presentation, I have them work on a Smarter Goals worksheet. So they are taking active notes as we move along through this. So what is the purpose of a goal? They grab that from the lesson. What have you ever put time into thinking about what your goals are? Yes, no, why. What is your general academic goal? What's your personal goal? And then here's a great spot for them to fill out what SMARTER stands for. And again, you can, make your own worksheet and make it how you want it to be. This is just how I had formatted it. And then I like them to create one for the school year, and then a personal goal for the semester. So personal goal for the semester, and then an academic or school goal for the year. So that way we can revisit these. And this is a really great way or a great thing to revisit close to progress reports and be like, hey, let's check in and see how we're doing with our goal that we set, or maybe halfway to progress reports. So that way you're really reusing this information that you got with them and that they are working toward, and say, hey, this was your goal at the beginning of the year. Are we working toward that still? How might we need to readjust, or how might we need to go forward? Have we been doing a good job of meeting our goal? And it's a really good opportunity to talk with our students about resilience and keep pushing on, even if it's hard and we're not getting it quite at first. We keep pushing toward it, and sometimes reevaluating if necessary. All right, so let's go right back here. I think it's important to give our students examples. So I give them my example here. This is an slightly older example. I've shifted this goal a little bit, but here I show them the specific part, the measurable part of my goal, how it's attainable, relevant, timely, evaluate it, what my reward is, and then I have them do that process on their own. And so this way I can see each part and make sure that they are making their goal really a smarter goal. So this slide presentation was also from Slides Go. So if you want to use the same template because it fits in well with goals, just head on over to Slides Go and you can create your own version of my presentation here. So hopefully it was helpful to see how I do this, and I think that this is something that your students will benefit from as well. If you have anything that works really well for you that's a little different from what you saw here, please feel free to share it in the chat. I'd love to see, or not the chat, clearly used to the COVID teaching year already with Zoom. Share it in the chat, share it in the comment section, what works well for you, and if anything in here was helpful for you, I hope that you will be able to use it in the school year, and it's also helpful for your students. So thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing you all soon here. All right, bye.